Welcome to Sacrilegious Discourse.
For this is what the Sovereign Lord says.
Why do you need prophets to tell people who you are and what you want?
If you can justify everything that the God of the Bible has done, then you can justify any of your behavior.
A lot of this mentality is trickling into what is now mainstream right-wing Christianity.
I am capable of empathy greater than this God of the Bible.
This is a Bible that they tell kids. This is the good Lord. This is the good book. He is fantasizing about murder, mass murder.
Head over to sacrilegiousdiscourse.com right now to find out how to leave us a review or support us on Patreon.
Hey there, sinners and saints. It's your favorite Bible-bashing duo from Sacrilegious Discourse, and we need your help.
That's right, folks. We're raising funds for some heavenly equipment and a studio that doesn't sound like it's in the depths of hell.
Our current setup, let's just say it's more apocalypse than audiophile.
So if you want to hear us dissect the Bible without the background noise of demonic squirrels, chip in a few bucks.
We're aiming for $5,000 to upgrade our audio and build a studio worthy of blasphemous banter.
Donate today and help us spread the good word of atheism.
You can find a link right on our homepage, sacrilegiousdiscourse.com. Every dollar counts.
Even if it's from your collection plate. Husband!
Wife!
What the fuck day is it and what are we doing?
It is Sunday, and we are live as fuck.
Yeah, we are.
We're on Discord.
I know, right? On a Sunday.
This is like our favorite place to be.
On Discord, not on Sunday.
No,
I mean,
yeah, well,
fuck a
both,
Sunday,
but, you know.
Discord in particular is what you meant to say.
No, we have a lot of fun on this, and if you're not here, you're missing, like, the best part of our podcast.
Honestly.
This is the most amazing community place that we have going, and you should be here 100% of the time, always.
Because all my friends are there.
Yeah. So be one of our friends. Come over to Discord. The link's in the show notes. You should go down there and check it out. Click on it. Even if you are scared as fuck of downloading Discord, just fucking do it.
I mean, how else are you going to make fun of me for fucking shit up and mispronouncing everything?
Right? That's the only way. I mean, or comment somewhere, but, you know.
It's the best way.
this is the most fun way to do it. Yeah.
So what are we doing today, though?
Well, I mean, that's kind of your wheelhouse, but we're doing a special. I know that.
Yeah, we are.
And I feel like it's going to be a fun one and maybe even episodic.
It is going to be episodic, yes. Yeah. I'm not sure if we're calling this God's Top 10 Kill Streaks, Old Testament edition, or if we're calling it If He's All Loving, Why the Body Count? Or if we're going to call it Top 10 God-sanctioned or God-direct kills.
But regardless, we're talking about God killing people.
God killing people.
Yeah. And it's a thing.
The top 10 thereof. Except that I only got to the top 3. And so this will be a TBC, to be continued.
Yeah, and I think we discussed this. We're probably going to do this as a once a month thing for the next
for Sunday.
2 or 3 months. On Sundays on our live Discord. So if you want to catch the next live version of this, obviously be at the Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern on Sundays every fourth Sunday. You can sign up for a reminder in the Discord for it.
Of course.
And then you can catch all these episodes live and comment as we say the things and do the stuff.
Do the stuff and say the same things. Yeah, sure.
All right. Are you ready to talk about God killing people?
Always.
All right. Let's do this.
Okie dokie. All right. Let's get into this very special episode on God is such a murderous dick.
He really is, isn't he? I mean, there's been a lot of things wrong with the Bible, but I'd say point number one is how much he fucking kills people.
He's so murdery. So yeah, you suggested this and I got really excited about it, but then I couldn't just like give you a list of top 10, right? I had to like do a little bit of a deep dive into each one.
Yeah. And
some background on it.
Okay.
Like, for example, starting at number 10 and then like counting up.
Yeah.
I couldn't just say, remember that time when he made Lot's wife turn into a pillar of salt? Anyway.
Right, moving along.
Yeah, like, no. Right.
So we got to give some, because we already covered the fact, like,
yeah,
you got to know more about it. We got to understand it a little deeper. We got to go into it. This is a deep dive. This is a special episode.
It's a special.
So we got to be special.
I'm always special. I don't know about you. So this happened in Genesis.
Yes.
Specifically, it's chapter 19, verse 26, but I'm going to start at verse 24.
Okay. All right.
Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities and also the vegetation and the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt.
Looking back or murdering tens of thousands of people.
Right.
It's what?
Yeah. So, like, let's overlook the fact that he just, like, fucking bombed the fuck out of a city.
I mean, I gotta be honest. If somebody's fucking nuking a city behind me, I'm going to look.
Yeah.
Because Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay, now let me ask you this. If the instructions given were cover your eyes because the fallout is, going to be too bright, like staring at the sun.
Right.
Then would you look? You probably would. You're such a dumbass. Because when a storm's coming, you're that guy that's like running out to look at it instead of.
But I wouldn't look at the fucking sun. Like, I don't look at the solar eclipse until I'm allowed to look at the solar eclipse. Like,
you're right. You're right.
Don't do things that I know will harm me.
So if you were told, okay, there's a bomb that's going to blow up the city. If you look at it, it will probably blind you. Would you look?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay. I'm just checking.
But that's not what she was told.
No,
so.
she was just told, don't look.
Yeah. No,
right.
And there wasn't like, God didn't attach the consequences ahead of time.
Right.
He just said not to look back, according to the Bible that we read anyway.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So my question is, why was looking back so bad other than because I said so? Right?
Right.
The punishment is weirdly extreme and wildly disproportionate to the punishment.
It definitely
or to the offense.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Lot's wife doesn't even have a name, and she's not even given any dialogue, which that's so weird for such a big thing to happen to basically what the Bible is saying is a nobody.
Right.
Not even worth naming.
Yeah. I got to share this real quick because like one of my favorite memes I've seen is it's like Lot and his daughters, which we'll cover a bit of that later.
Yeah.
But
the hop on pop of it all.
But it's them sitting at the dinner table and says, "Pass the mom."
Oh shit. That is grody and I don't like it. But I might have to like say that. Although I don't really add a lot of salt to my food, but still.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. All right. So obviously the "cause I said so" is like the first reason of why it was bad. The disobedience.
Yeah.
Because the angel's instructions were clear. They did specifically say, don't do it. And disobeying a divine command, even a seemingly small one, has consequences in Bible logic. Because God said so.
I guess.
Except for sometimes he goes back, but that's.
I have some severe problems with Bible logic.
I have severe problems with authoritarianism
because I was
blind loyalty.
Right, and I was going to get into this a little bit later, but I mean, like, and we just kind of mentioned it, but like, Lot's wife gets turned into a pillar of salt for looking back at the sinful city that they're leaving and God's blowing the fuck up, right?
Yeah.
But later, Lot gets drunk and has sex with his daughters.
That's not necessarily what happened.
Well, close enough.
No.
They apparently, have sex with him.
He's completely innocent. That's how dicks
the way
work.
It's pitched. That's the way it's pitched. But yeah. Anyway.
Right.
It just that doesn't sit well. Like that's apparently okay.
Right.
But this wasn't.
Yeah.
Looking fucking back.
Yeah.
Just looking back.
I know. But there are some reasons that we'll get into though.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, disobedience, bad. Don't disobey God. You might get smote or turned into salt.
Right. Yeah.
There's also this bit in a classic Midrash story where Lot's wife sinned with salt, so she was punished with salt in a form of like poetic justice.
Okay.
When the angels visited, Lot asked her to prepare food for them, and she went to her neighbors asking for salt, and they were supposed to keep the angels secret.
Yeah.
But when she asked for salt for the dish, she kind of like told them why, and she thereby alerted the townspeople to their guests. So her betrayal, which was a breach of hospitality and safety, resulted in a fitting punishment.
I don't know. You literally went to go ask for some neighborly help for some salt because you had some visitors.
I mean,
I'm not saying that, that I feel like that's just something you would normally do in those days if you didn't have the things that you like. Even back in the 80s, I remember going next door to ask for this, that, or the other from a neighbor.
Butter, egg,
yeah, sure,
bread, whatever.
Because that was just what you did, right?
Sure.
The community helps community, right?
Right.
And I don't know that. Do we know that they thought that their neighbors were terrible?
I mean,
you wouldn't have gone and asked your terrible neighbors for salt, would you?
I don't know. We have Trump neighbors, and when we thought that there was a goober walking around the neighborhood, like getting into cars and stuff, we went next door and told them.
Sure.
Because they have a 16-year-old
But we also
daughter.
don't think that they're going to send rapists and murderers to our door.
That is true. That is true.
I'm just saying.
But this city was described as sinful, not necessarily with rapists and murderers. It was described as sinful, like lusty, like think Las Vegas, right? Like gambling and whorism and prostitution.
But they literally
and stuff.
described them beating down the door to try to have sex with the fucking visitors.
Oh, was that same city?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, if that's the level of shittiness that you have from your neighbors, I don't feel like you'd be going and asking for salt from them.
Okay, that's true.
Unless you trusted your fucking neighbors.
That is true.
So I don't buy that story.
Unless she's like, hey, I need some salt. And they're like, why? And she's like, I have to cook stuff. And they're like, why? And then she's like, because we have, I'm not supposed to say, but because I have to cook for some extras.
But still, would you go borrow salt if there was a chance that there was a side of rape involved?
Well, no.
Right. I'm just saying that's what I'm getting at. It seems unrealistic.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't know what you're saying, quite honestly.
I'm just saying that I don't feel like that they must have trusted their neighbor.
So?
At least to the point that they could borrow salt. So you wouldn't think that person's going to send the whole horde of fucking rapists and killers to your door for having visitors at your fucking house.
But that's not what I'm getting at, though.
Okay. Sorry.
Basically it was, she gave away the fact that hey, by the way, there's angels here. I'm not supposed to tell anybody. I'm cooking.
Right.
And so they were like, oh, and so then they gossiped, like the crime of gossip, like she, and then they told somebody and then somebody else told somebody and it got around.
But again, I don't feel like you would say that to somebody if you felt like the consequences were what they became.
All right. But you don't think that if she told somebody in that household, gossiping or just hey, I need to borrow some salt. We have some house guests. And then one of them was like, who's your house guest? And she's like, I can't say. And then they're like, it's just me. I'm not going to say anything. And then she's like, okay, fine. It's angels. You don't think that maybe she would be like, oh my God, honey, guess what? And she told her husband. And then the husband went and told his friends.
Okay.
And then one of his friends told somebody else, don't tell anybody. I told you.
I'm not saying that couldn't have happened that way. I'm saying, does the act of doing that rise to the level of sin and killing her for looking back at that city? The punishment was because of that initial sin, right? So that's so much of a sin that when she looked back, for whatever reason may exist for looking back,
right?
They then turned her into a pillar of salt. I just don't feel like that justify saying that was a sinful action
I
of whatever of this type of consequence.
Like, first you gossiped and let loose the secret, and then you looked back. So boom, salt.
No, they're pitching her as a terrible person.
No, that's true. That is true. Okay.
Who deserves salt death, which
salt death.
I just don't agree with.
Nobody agrees with salt death.
Nobody agrees with salt death.
No. Well, another thing is this attachment to sin. So many theologians say she looked back longingly. Like they add that tidbit of what a bitch, right?
Okay.
Symbolizing her lingering emotional attachment to Sodom and its lifestyle. The fire and brimstone cleansed the sinful cities, and Lot's wife, who fails to fully leave that behind, becomes a monument to unfaithfulness.
Okay.
She's like, I miss being a prostitute and gambling or whatever.
I feel like you need to lean a little harder into the fact that she would have been a terrible person before you turn her into a pillar of salt for looking back.
No, yeah, true.
Like the act of looking back at a city that's actively being destroyed.
Right.
Where people that you knew and were neighbors with are dying. No, I need a little bit more information before you decide to turn her into salt.
That's why some people are like, she was looking back because she actually like loved being sinful, and she was sad because she wanted to go back to sinning. She wanted to go back to those ways. So she looked back all sad because she couldn't be sinful anymore. Oh, sigh. She deserved to be salt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's their reasoning.
Okay. And
it makes just as little sense.
Right. I would say that most killing in the Bible makes very little sense. So
no, that's true.
Yeah.
So Midrash Bereshit Rabbah, which is a rabbinic commentary on Genesis, says she looked back because her heart was still in Sodom. She regretted leaving. So it's even in some Midrash that she looked back longingly, and she looked back because she didn't really want to go. And that kind of gets into,
I mean, I don't necessarily blame her for that.
No, me neither. But what they're saying is not that she was missing her home. They're saying that she was going to miss the lifestyle, the sinning part of it.
But I get that they're trying to allude to that, right?
Right.
But I need a little bit, like if you're going to convince me that that's why she got killed and that's why she got turned into a pillar of salt, you're going to need to convince me more than she went over to borrow some salt from the fucking neighbors.
Well, not only that, but if you're going to convince me that that's why, show me the proof that that's why.
Right.
That's not in the Bible.
No, it's not.
It doesn't convey that there was a reason that she looked back.
Right.
You're just like, you know how dumb bitches be dumb bitches. Like, that's what they're trying to convince me of. And I'm like, but there's no like proof of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
She may have been a dumb bitch. I don't know.
Right. I mean, it's so many thousands and thousands of years ago, right? So whatever.
But there's no proof of that.
Right.
So that kind of gets into the lip service of it all, though. Like, not just she was going to miss it and that's why she looked back.
Yeah.
But some people even go so far as to say it's not just a glance. It's a metaphor for hesitation to leave behind a corrupt world. Her body was fleeing, but her heart wasn't.
Okay.
It's that whole like actions without what is it, like when you do acts without faith or something like that.
Okay.
It's supposed to be this, just because you're a good person doing good things, but that doesn't mean you're going to quote unquote get into heaven.
That's not enough.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So like, no matter how good you are, no matter what your acts are, without faith, you're still a sinner going to hell.
Got it.
Right. And so that's what that's getting.
And this goes
at.
back to some of those things we've discussed with regard to how God is like, it's not about the actions. It's about the how you feel inside.
Right.
What you feel
God
inside.
God knows your heart.
Even though God can actually change how you feel inside. Which, again, there's so many fucking just like
bullshittery
weird
nonsense
shit about all this stuff in the Bible, right?
Yeah. It also, I think, is a very modern day Christian interpretation, because they do that acts without faith thing a lot, because like that's the argument a lot of times that people are like, you're telling me that no matter how good I am, if I don't take Jesus as my savior, I'm not getting into heaven. What kind of fucking heaven is that? Right.
Right.
And they're like, well, that's because it's just the way it is. Like there's there's a key and he's giving it to you and you're not taking it. And it's like, I don't know about that. But like, that's their argument. Like that, they're holding that, they're gatekeeping, right? They're like, nope, it doesn't matter if you're a good guy. We collectively as Christians, we get to behave or misbehave as we see fit. And it's fine. We get to misbehave because we took Christ as our savior. So our acts come out of our faith, not vice versa.
Right.
And it's like, your acts come out of your faith. That sounds backwards as fuck.
Yeah.
Honestly, your faith should come out of your acts. Like, you should be just acting like a good person because that's the way you be, whether you're Christian or not.
Right.
And then your faith should be on top of that. Like, but they're like, no, we have faith first, and then that makes us want to act.
Okay. All right.
That's a whole bag of worms over there.
Right.
Yeah. So another form of the lip service is the act of looking back symbolized a desire to return to a sinful life, which we've already covered, or at least a lack of full commitment to the divine command. So again, they're just painting her as this like, I just love getting fucked every which way and taking money for it. And I'm a terrible sinner who likes to gamble and I'm a honey lip vixen.
But again, I don't think you get a pass in this world for lack of commitment being a justification for murder.
Right. Not only that, but maybe she was a prostitute. I got no beef with that.
Right.
If she wanted to be that way.
The things that rise to the level of God being able to murder somebody don't rise that like they're not justifications in my mind.
No, me
generally
neither.
speaking. I'm not saying 100%. Like there's obviously some things that God killed people over that they were doing terrible things.
No, totally.
But I also don't believe in the death penalty. So, I mean,
right.
You know, it takes a lot for me to get to the point where I'm like, that's so terrible that I'm just going to turn my head away from the fact that they're getting the death penalty type thing.
Right,
you know,
right.
I'm not saying that those instances don't exist in my life. But
like if somebody harmed our child, you would have a very difficult time trying to deny that person
and
a little bit of personal vengeance all over his fucking face.
For sure. And that's why, you know, family shouldn't be prosecuting people that commit crimes.
Right.
Because it's a whole different story.
Right. Because then it's about personal vengeance, not justice and equality and what's best for the community, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So further, we get into judgment on hesitation.
Okay.
So not necessarily like the look back or the lifestyle, but it's like the taking a second to process. Right?
Okay.
So the moment is sometimes used to symbolize the danger of clinging to the past when divine judgment or change is underway.
I have a hard time switching gears.
You do.
And I don't feel like that's justification for any punishment.
Right.
I mean, at least not that severe of a punishment.
No, I mean, I have a hard time switching gears too. Like if I am in the midst of work and you interrupt me, I snap because I am busy doing what I'm doing and I cannot, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's just part of both of us, our makeups. We're like, what? Oh my God. Can you not see that I'm not here right now. I am physically not here. You see my body and that's a lie. Yeah. My body is not here.
If God came along and said, hey, y'all need to move because I'm going to destroy this fucking town. And I had like plans for the next 20 years of what we're doing with this house and everything else. I'd be like, what the fuck? I mean, I would definitely hesitate.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to just be like, okay, bye. See ya, house. Right? I'm going to leave because God said so.
I mean, it does make me think of at the beginning of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when Ford is like, hey, so the Vogons are going to build a hyperspace byway right through Earth.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like completely unrelated, but simultaneously your house is about to be bulldozed. But it doesn't matter that your house is about to be bulldozed because the whole planet's about to be bulldozed.
Right.
So like instead of laying down in the mud, let's just pretend everybody that you're laying down in the mud and go get some beer.
Sure.
Yeah. Like that. It's that whole thing.
To be fair, they had 20 years of notice.
They did, but it was in the sub basement.
Right. Yeah.
Where nobody went. The notice, that is. Yeah. All right. So here's another thing. The story of Lot's wife represents a moral allegory because of course it does.
Right.
and thus becomes a cautionary tale not to be stuck in your old ways when deliverance is at hand. Okay. Yeah. You just listen to God and 1, 2, 3, heed his word. The end. Sure. The end. That's all there is.
I don't think it's ever really been made clear when, like, how do you know when God's speaking to you exactly?
You know.
Okay. All right.
Hasn't happened. So
it hasn't.
You'll know. If God comes down and says, get the fuck out and don't look back.
That's what people keep telling me.
And them angels are like, no, I mean it. Don't look back.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it. You don't have any time to think. Just go.
Right.
I would be terrible in a hostage crisis situation. Like, I would seriously, like, have to, you know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to be quick on your feet and be able to negotiate and say smart things, or I don't know.
I'm not sure how we got to hostage negotiation from that story. So
because
I'm not following.
It kind of it feels like. It feels like they're being given instructions to follow right now. Go.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, the same situation if, like, somebody kidnapped kid, right? And then, like, was holding them for ransom and then was like, okay, you have 2 seconds to follow these instructions and you just have to follow them blindly. Mm-hmm. Like, I guess I would not do well in that situation because I would have to think about it.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, because I would be like, wait, is this one of those times when they're using AI to emulate my child's voice calling for help?
No, I would definitely pause, but
like, and if they were like, and don't call your kid, don't call the police, I would be like, but I have to call my kid to make sure that you're not tricking me.
Right.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I would not be able to follow their directions precisely. And I would probably get kid killed because I am terrible. I would be like, I don't believe you. That doesn't seem realistic that you would kidnap my kid.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, this is supposed to reinforce the idea that when God tells you to move forward, don't fucking turn around. Mm-hmm. Don't look back. Yeah. Because you're going to see my heart breaking. Don't turn around. I don't want you seeing me cry.
Yeah.
You know, Ace of Base?
No, yeah.
Okay. Mystical Jewish texts interpret the story symbolically. Salt is stagnation. She became fixed, frozen, a pillar, instead of flowing forward spiritually.
Okay.
Right? Like, it's symbolism for just moving instead of staying still.
Right.
She was staying still.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So I kind of like the symbolism thing. Like, okay.
I would assume that the symbolism on that is kind of based on the fact that they live near the Dead Sea, and it was a very heavily salted sea.
Yes.
So, like, there's a lot of...
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I think we did an episode about salt at one point. Like how you can actually kill people by putting too much salt in their diet, and how there are, like, some people who... they'll put salt on the umbilical cord where the baby was, like, cut.
Yeah.
You know, and, like, if you put too much salt, the baby absorbs it and can die. Like, we did whole thing about salt.
Oh, yeah, I kind of remember talking about that. Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah, because it was, like, very important to people at these times. Right. And there are still cultures today that embrace that.
Sure.
And it's problematic.
Yeah.
Because, you know, salt ain't magic, guys.
No, definitely is not magic.
Yeah.
Science.
So,
it's science.
It's science. Yeah. Yeah. Modern Jewish thinkers, like, think Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, and secular commentators offer more human-centered takes on this story. Okay. So one midrash suggests that 2 of Lot's daughters, not the 2 that hopped on Pop, remained behind, engaged to sodomite men, and they refused to flee. So Lot's wife turned back out of maternal concern.
And that would be only reasonable, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so, like, they're like, that's bullshit. She was just like, oh, my daughters are still there. The city's condemned and they're going to die, and that's sad.
Let's be honest. I haven't heard one justification that makes killing her okay.
No. And that's the point here with the modern take. They're like, yeah, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some suggest that Lot's wife is a tragic figure, not a villain. That would be like us.
Sure.
We're suggesting that.
Yeah.
She was uprooted from her home and life without agency and punished for a very human act, turning to look back at everything she lost.
Right.
And, it's that whole don't mourn. Remember when Aaron's son, he picked up sticks on the wrong fucking day or whatever. And remember Moses' brother, Aaron's sons, they did the bad thing and then he wasn't even allowed to cry about them.
Yeah.
God was like,
they lit the wrong incense or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Right. They did the wrong thing on the wrong day. It was so simple and stupid.
Yeah.
And God smote them and told Aaron, and don't you be mourning for them neither.
Right. Yeah.
It's very similar to that.
God tries to control your emotions as well as the acts that he does. And it's like, dude, could you just back off a bit? You're kind of micromanaging everything here.
Not only that, but can you maybe, I don't know, go forward about 2,500 years and learn psychology?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Go to college, bro.
Go have a chat with Freud or something,
Be
a step forward at least.
Maybe also fuck some druids and get a heart, right? You need to get some human empathy and some love inside you.
Yeah.
You need to soften your edges.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say God is a dick and he needs to fuck some druids and take some psychology courses at his local community college.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then come back and tell me, don't mourn for your children. Yeah. They disobeyed. They did the wrong thing. You love them anyway. Even when your children do heinous crimes, it's a horrible situation that you can be in that you're trying to my kid did this horrible thing and yet I still love them and I feel guilty that I still love them because they did this thing. But how do you just don't turn your love off? You know, human hearts don't work that way.
Right.
Yeah. I was just quoting the movie Legend, starring a very young pre-nose job Tom Cruise when his teeth were still mangled. Yeah, such a good movie.
Yeah. Not
the director's cut, because that has music all the way through it, and it's so bad. Don't watch the director's cut of Legend. Okay?
Okay.
Just going to tell you that.
All right.
Okay, she also became Lot's unnamed wife.
Yeah.
A symbol of erasure, like so many unnamed women in the Bible, and that's tragic. Yeah. Because, she didn't matter. But we're supposed to take her story as mattering more than she herself does.
Right.
And that's fucked up. I'm not here for it.
No, it definitely is. Definitely is.
Modern commentaries often ask, was it fair? I don't know. Was it fair, babe? Nope. Why is she punished so severely for a look, while, as you pointed out, Lot himself is later allowed to impregnate his daughters?
Right.
In that hop-on-pop situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not it. That's a whole other story we could go down, and there's a lot of, things that are involved with that story as well.
It's grody.
But on the base level, you allowed this and were okay with this, but didn't allow this.
God's hypocrisy at its finest.
Right.
Full on display.
Yeah.
Some view it as a cautionary tale against dehumanizing divine obedience, questioning whether the moral being taught here actually aligns with modern ethics. And I approve that.
Yeah.
I approve that question.
For sure.
Because no, it doesn't. Blind obedience is never okay. We should engage our thought processes and we should ask these questions,
Absolutely.
So I guess toward that end, it's a cool story, but not really.
Right.
All right. So that was number 10. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Moving on. Number 9, Onan. I don't
even remember Onan.
Yeah. Well, one casualty. Okay. So we're up to 2 now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Because Lot's wife and then Onan.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to read from Genesis chapter 38.
Okay.
Verses starting at verse 8.
Got it.
Then Judah said to Onan, sleep with your brother's wife and fulfill your duty to her as a brother-in-law to raise up offspring for your brother. But Onan knew that the child would not be his. So whenever he slept with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground to keep from providing offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight. So the Lord put him to death also.
That is some fucked up shit.
It's gross.
God is telling you, first of all, the idea of you having sex with your brother's wife to give your dead brother's wife to give your brother a son or a kid or whatever the fuck it is, that's just fucked up from the, like, just that statement alone is fucked up.
By today's standards, absolutely, that is fucked up.
Yeah.
There is some actual morality to it that we'll get into.
Okay. Sure, whatever. You're having sex with somebody and somehow it's supposed to not be your kid, it's your brother's kid. And you're not only supposed to, you're obliged to have sex with this woman.
I know.
For your brother.
I was just thinking about that. Like, you have a brother. I don't, but you have a brother. So let's say that your brother, something happened to him, right? You would be forced to fuck his wife to give her children.
Yeah, no thanks.
And I'm like looking at that situation. I'm like, absolutely fucking not.
Right. Yeah.
And conversely, like, if, I don't know, like, if something happened to you,
right,
your brother would be forced to fuck me,
right,
and I'm like, absolutely fucking not,
right. Yeah, no, it's like, it's not okay. It's not okay.
These are not okay things.
But then he gets killed for not,
right,
having sex the right way.
Right.
He didn't impregnate.
He pulled out.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, you got killed for not impregnating your brother's what? Wow. This is some fucked up shit, man.
So my question was, why was it so important for Onan to impregnate Tamar?
Yeah.
Onan's dead brother's wife.
Why is that important?
Why is that a big deal, right?
Why does God care to the point of killing somebody?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of background here, okay?
Okay.
Onan was the second son of Judah. Okay. His older brother Er was wicked in the sight of the Lord, quote unquote, and died before producing any children with his wife Tamar.
Wait, was that That was Because like we commented on the time that was just like a mention and God killed Like, Er's dead.
Yeah. Er's dead.
All right.
Yeah. So we've got these two brothers, and Onan, right?
Yeah.
And Onan did not fuck his wife good enough. She didn't have kids, and then he died for whatever reason. He is bad, and God was like, boom, dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Judah is the father, and he's like, I'm really sorry, Onan, but you got to go fuck your dead brother's wife, Tamar.
Okay. All right.
Under ancient Hebrew law, pre-Mosaic, but echoed later in Deuteronomy chapter 25, if a man dies childless, his brother was expected to marry the widow and produce offspring in his brother's name.
No, I remember that law.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was weird.
Talking about it at the time, yeah. This was called Levirate marriage, Latin from levar, meaning brother-in-law.
Yeah.
So Judah told his son Onan to sleep with Tamar and raise offspring for
Yeah.
But Onan, knowing the child wouldn't be his, legally speaking, spilled his seed on the ground, and God kills him for it. Okay, but let's dig into this a little more, because that doesn't answer. But why? Why was it important?
Yeah, right? No, I'm curious to the point of death.
To the point of death. Yeah. So first of all, there's the cultural legacy. Okay.
Yeah.
Inheritance and family name were passed through male heirs. A dead man without children was considered cut off. So to spill seed was to waste one's future, a deeply offensive act in a patriarchal society obsessed with lineage. So
patriarchal society obsessed with lineage.
Yes. There's your overt reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your very obvious on the surface reason, but there's a little bit more to it than that.
Okay.
Next comes protection for the widow, which again gets into the patriarchal society.
Sure.
But given that was the society, Onan wasn't just skipping a family favor. He was breaking a sacred duty by avoiding a law that was meant to protect lineage and property rights. A child would secure Tamar's financial and social future.
So property rights and financial security.
These
all sound like godly reasons to kill someone.
But without a child, Tamar would be vulnerable to everybody and everything. She would be homeless. She would be nothing.
Sure. But this is a societal problem.
Yeah.
This is a societal problem.
Yeah.
This is not a good ethical reason to kill somebody for not having a child with someone.
Right. But we're supposed to take at face value, but that's the way the society was set up. And he was like, I don't fucking care. I'm going to fuck her, but I'm not going to give her any children.
Sure.
Okay. So in contemporary Jewish thought, especially in progressive and reform circles, there's an emphasis on how male power was misused and how Tamar was exploited in this situation. Okay. And that gets into the third reason, which is manipulation and greed. Okay. And this is kind of gross if you think about it.
Yeah.
Rabbinic commentators like Rashi in the 11th century highlight the fact that Onan's motive was actually greed. If Tamar had a son, the inheritance would go to that child as the oldest son.
Okay. All right.
In Er's name, not Onan. His act was selfish and deceptive. He used Tamar for sex. Again, he fucked her.
Yeah.
He totally fucked her.
Right.
But he denied her a future. He was fine with having sex. He just didn't want to impregnate her and lose his birthright. Onan wanted the benefits of sex without fulfilling his obligation. He slept with Tamar but withheld his duty, ensuring would have no heir and keeping the inheritance in his own line.
So greed.
Greed.
Which, if it was portrayed that way a little clearer, it might have made sense. But I mean, I see how we can get there.
Sure.
I do.
It would be different. I mean, it specifies that he did sleep with her. He fucked her.
Right. It still doesn't rise to the level of murdering somebody, in my opinion. Greed does not justify murder.
No, I totally hear you. And in today's times, absolutely not. But in this society where he owns now 2 women, one of them is completely dependent upon him. And he is on purpose saying, you have to keep fucking me, but I'm not going to do right by you.
But just the idea of owning a woman is not ethically correct.
You're right.
And for a God, like, my problem with this is for a God to allow that type of society to exist for his people.
Right.
His people, right? The ones that he enacts judgment over and for.
No, totally.
Is not correct. That is not any God that I respect or care.
No, and I totally agree with you.
Follow.
I totally agree with you. I'm just saying, like, if we accept that this is the society that these people set up.
Yeah.
And the women had no choice in the matter. And the men were like, this is what we're going to do. And God is like, fine. This is the society that you're going to have. This is the way you want to do it. Fine. Like, that's what we're supposed to believe, right? That God's like, fine, y'all do what you want to do.
I guess, but like, we've punished people for their shitty societies and other, like, we just got done talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
Sure.
So we've punished societies for shitty behavior before.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't we punishing the society for being shitty as opposed to punishing this person for existing in the shittiness?
So, I mean, I guess because he comes off kind of rapey in this, I just don't mind that God was like, you know what? You're gross.
I still do, though. I mean, just because no matter which way you cut this, in my opinion, it does not rise to the level of murder.
I hear you. And I wish God would have just like taken 2 seconds to come down and be like, yo, bro, I don't know if you are aware, but being rapey is kind of gross.
Also, I'd like to point out, just for the record, pull-out method doesn't work for anybody. So just don't.
Right. If it works, it's a complete accident. Don't rely on it. Yeah, totally. Oh, that reminds me of, I know we've talked about this before, the story of the kids that they would like lie together on a waterbed and have their friends jump up and down on the waterbed so that they could accidentally have sex.
That was one of those, like, it was some Christian, like, it was a Christian thing. I was like, they're like, well, we're not actually acting this. We're not actually doing this.
We're not actively having sex.
It's the bed causing it to happen.
Yeah, it's not our fault.
Yeah.
And then they could like legit say without lying that I didn't have sex.
Right. No.
I literally did fall and my dick fell in her. Like, okay, guys, you're gross.
Yeah, there's some weird shit.
Kids are dumb, but Christians are weird.
Yeah, no, I think that's even going all the way back to the Old Testament. Like this shit, these things are just fucking weird.
No, it's true. It's true. So the thing about this story is that Christians take this story way out of context and talk about this as being anti-masturbation.
Okay.
And that is like not what this story is about. Like not even a little bit.
No, I mean, I would say the part that makes the most sense would be the greed aspect of it, right?
Yes.
Like that makes the most logical, religious sense to me.
That makes me say, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
That I can buy that. Not necessarily agree with it, but I get your logic. Your math is mathing.
And I think that's the part that I rail against with regard to a lot of Christians is that they don't actually take the time to understand the stories that they're reading fully. Like they don't dig into it because there's not a lot of room for question asking. There's not a lot of room for questioning the norm that is already set in place, right? You just accept what people tell you and you're like, yeah, this is what this is about.
Totally. It's about masturbation. Like, no, he's fucking. That's not masturbation, my guys.
But that's where I fail at religion. I want to know more. I want to know why. I want to understand. Yeah.
So, the thing about masturbation, that interpretation was a way later invention. Jewish sages, even at that time, and even like in centuries to come, they never understood this as a story about masturbation. Ever.
Got it.
Ever.
And that
was a total Christian invention.
Sure.
Okay. The text says Onan spilled his seed on the ground, meaning he pulled out. And that's coitus interruptus, not solo action. So, like, yeah. The issue isn't the act itself. Like, it's not the pulling out. Like, you're allowed to pull out. God is not saying don't pull out. Okay.
Yeah, right.
The deliberate subversion of a legal and moral obligation is what this story is saying that the problem is.
No,
whether we agree with that or not is irrelevant. The story is about that.
And just to be clear, I don't agree with it. So.
Right. No, I'm iffy on it. Given the context of the time and place, we can't change the. Okay, let's say that it was Judah, the father, that put the son to death, not God. Right. Let's take God out of it. The society is set up the way it is. Okay. And let's say that Judah found out his son of a bitch, disgusting son is being rapey with his women's. He can't change the society, but he can say, you're being rapey to your dead brother's wife. You're fucking her. You're forcing her to have sex with you, but you're not taking correct financial care of her because you don't want to lose your birthright. Therefore, I'm going to take care of that for you.
But to me, the correct response would be, what can I do to rectify the situation for the woman, not kill somebody and then still leave her in a situation that's shitty?
But she doesn't get left as shitty because then it would become Judah's responsibility as the father. He's the closest representative.
Right. So maybe you just step in and I don't fucking know. But to me, the correct societal response is to take care of the woman.
Right.
And maybe punish the man for being against this rule, but to rise to the level of death, again, I don't feel like that's correct.
I'm not saying he deserved death. I'm saying I understand that this society viewed it that way. And that's not the same thing. I'm not condoning his death. I am viewing it as this society was set up this way.
It was. But I'm going to argue against the legitimacy of the need for that because I would argue against current institutions that call for death and the needs that they call for them as well.
No, and I agree with you on those grounds as well. I guess we're having separate discussions is what I think.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I get it. I get what you're saying. I want to make it clear that this is not an okay reason to kill somebody.
No, I hear you.
So
I hear you. In this story, God isn't punishing lust. He's punishing deceit, selfishness, and failure to care for the vulnerable. And so that would be what you're saying. Yeah, but even so, he doesn't deserve death.
Right.
The idea that God smote Onan for masturbation, going back to that.
The Christian idea.
Yeah, that came years, centuries later.
Sure.
When church authorities were eager to control sexual expression, and they used this passage as a warning. Jewish scholars reject Christian readings that moralize about masturbation. Yeah. So even today, they're like, no, absolutely not. You're wrong.
Yeah, and we even had even some somewhat progressive churches teach this.
Yes.
Like we had family members that taught this to people.
Yes.
So,
correct.
I mean, it's not, and they weren't right-leaning people. You know? Like this is something that is pervasive in Christianity quite a bit.
Now, I don't know that they use this particular passage as their why masturbation is wrong
but
story.
That idea persists.
It does. And in fact, masturbation isn't a major sin in Jewish law at all.
Yeah.
So
as well it shouldn't be.
Right. That is a total Christian thing.
Yeah.
It may be discouraged in certain contexts, like, wasting seed or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
But it's not equated with Onan's story.
Okay.
So
all right.
They're more like, they're not Catholic about it. They're not like, don't waste any drop. They're just like, well, you really could be having kids, though.
Yeah, well, and there are some bits, I think it was in Leviticus and stuff like that, about not, wasting seed.
Yeah.
So there are some, like, Levitical laws based on this stuff. But then again, Jewish folks have found ways around Levitical laws to operate in society, too.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that by now they have justifications.
They have their own waterbed loopholes. So what's really going on here, though, right?
Yeah.
The story reveals the tension between sexual freedom and social obligation, and it critiques male exploitation of women within legal loopholes. That's what it ultimately does.
Sure. Yeah.
Onan wants sex without responsibility, and God says, nope, you don't get to use people like that. I'm going to kill you instead. And
okay.
So it's like, I agree with the sentiment, but maybe like, I don't know, you're right. Like death though? Like
that's a bit much. Like that, and that I think
couldn't you make him flip burgers at McDonald's for the rest of his life or something? I don't know. Modern Jewish feminist scholars recenter Tamar. They say that she's a victim of patriarchy, which that's obvious.
Yeah.
First married to a violent man. So he beat the fuck out of her, and that's why God killed that dude.
Sure.
And then she got used and is then discarded by Onan. And then she's denied justice by Judah later on in the story.
Again, more of a reason for societal reform from God than it is for exacting punishment on a single person. Because these things were acceptable and tolerated somewhat in those times. Right. And that's why that's part of the larger problem.
Right. And that's why the writing is about it.
Yeah.
Right. Because these things clearly were happening a lot.
Sure.
So the cool thing, though, is that Tamar later tricks Judah himself into impregnating her, her father-in-law.
Okay.
Yeah. That happens in Genesis chapter 38. And I need to go back because I don't remember this.
Is that the one where she went to the... I feel like I remember that one. She asked like a priest for help with it or something like that, maybe?
Maybe. I don't recall, honestly.
I don't know if that was the same person or not, but I might recall that story.
Well, her son through Judah is Perez, and he becomes an ancestor of King David, who is, ultimately an ancestor of Jesus. So,
I mean,
she got her.
According to things and stuff. Yeah.
Sure, things and stuff. Right.
Yeah.
It's just like the Bible in the New Testament would have you believe that she got hers eventually.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
Her later actions are viewed as a bold reclaiming of agency in a system that was stacked against her. But I'm like, but she didn't get to live to know that her child was like the quote unquote ancestor of...
Yeah, she merely tricked somebody into having sex with her.
Yeah.
She's
like, I had a baby. The end.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't get to know that, like, oh, but one of my great grands is like a messiah or what the fuck ever.
It's such a weird time to exist in the world. These are the things that they were worried about, right?
Yeah.
Like to try to take myself back into the mindset of these people it's not even recognizable as humanity to me.
Like the most important things in life are, I need kids and I need these crops to grow, and that's it. Like those are the most important things.
Sure. And my grandpa was a farmer, so I mean, I get the crops growing bit, but like, and honestly, I'm from a family that very much prioritized having kids. Like it was one of those things you always got asked to, if you when you have kids,
married, when you have
not kids. Like it was like required.
No, but
I understand. I understand the emphasis on those things,
right?
Right. I just don't understand the level of emphasis on those things.
Well, I mean, that makes me think of like the movie Bridget Jones's Diary, right? Like in the beginning of that movie, which is based on, I believe, Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
Which, fantastic Jane Austen story. Anyway, in the beginning of that movie, she's talking about how all her friends are getting married and having kids, and she's the last lonely single, and every single person is asking her, so when are you getting married? When are you having children? And her mom is like, when are you giving grandchildren to me?
Yeah.
Like, that thing is still, even today,
a real thing.
It's pervasive.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot be, particularly a woman, without being asked, where are my motherfucking kids? And like, that is part of the whole thing that, not to get into politics, that we're railing against with, you know, the sexual freedom to not be forced to carry children.
Right.
You know, the repealing of Roe v. Wade and the anti-abortion movement and all of that. Like, women are still being forced to have kids, and the expectation is there.
Right. And that's the thing. When I think that's why a lot of liberals and people who don't agree with Christianity or religion or gods rail against is this inability to treat human beings as equals, right?
Just human beings.
Not women, not men, not Middle Eastern descent, not, you know, whatever.
Trans, not.
It doesn't matter.
Gay,
but like,
straight, bi, whatever.
People
just
as
human beings.
People.
Just be human.
That's it.
It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter what they have between their legs or don't have between their legs. My God, just people. Just let people be fucking people.
And when you sit here and read this bullshit in the Bible and understand that this God is more petty than you, it's hard to digest. It's hard to take that in and say, I'm okay with this.
Right.
I want to worship this fucker. No, I don't want to worship this fucker. I want to chastise him for being a petulant little shit who can't actually understand humanity or anything about it, even though he supposedly created us and put us in his image or whatever. But no, he can't even understand how to treat people as equals.
Right. It's like, women, you have to have kids. Oh, but wait, you have to do it the right way. You can only do it under certain circumstances.
Right.
Oh, you did it wrong. Oh, you didn't have kids. You suck. Oh, you had kids, but it was the wrong way. Oh, it was with the wrong one. Oh, it was before you were married. Like, what?
Right.
Like, what? Why can't I just...
And I wouldn't care about any of this shit if it was done. If Christianity and Judaism and all these different religions, you know, Islam, if these things were things of the past, it wouldn't matter, right?
Who cares?
We'd be talking about how individuals or other groups of people treat
we
people
would be
or
free
whatever.
to talk about class systems and economic warfare instead of, you know, all of these other things that are just offshoots of it.
And that's part of it, right? We have to jump through this hoop of religion before we even get to the classist bullshit that we have to deal with, right? And it's a front for other things that people are shitting on us with, right? You know, like, and it's a way to make people accept things as they are. It's very much indoctrination of people to accept their lot in life, so to speak.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, sorry. I'm off on a rant there. I apologize.
Whew, me too. All right. But now you can see why I only got to 3, because now we're hitting up number 8 on our 10 kill list.
And the last one for today.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we went 10 was Lot's wife.
Yeah.
9 was Tamar.
Yep.
Or not Tamar, but her fucking brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Onan.
Yeah.
Okay. And number 8 is the Egyptian firstborns. So like millions of babies.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that.
One of the first most disturbing story, other than I think the flood came before this, but like this was a disturbing story.
Yeah, because this was like Noah's Ark, you could like dismiss almost as like myth, legend, allegory, like passed down. But like this feels a little bit more like, no, they're trying to pass this off as history.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Even though it's not, based on most people's accounts, there wasn't even an Exodus, but you know, like,
but
they do try to pass it off that way.
They feel like this is there are holidays celebrating this today.
Yeah.
This is part of...
We celebrate Passover, and what people don't understand, generally speaking, is what that actually means behind the scenes.
Yeah. So this death of millions, not just death of millions of people, let's get it right. Death of millions of newborn babies.
Well, yeah, and older babies. But yeah, firstborns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's read this. This is from Exodus chapter 12, starting at verse 29. At midnight, the Lord struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on the throne, to the firstborn of the prisoner who was in the dungeon, and the firstborn of all the livestock as well. Because why not?
Yeah. What the fuck did they do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pharaoh and all his officials and all the Egyptians got up during the night, and there was loud wailing in Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead.
Yeah.
Because death, because murder.
Right.
That's the way. This is the way.
It's the one time you wish you only had girls, right?
Jesus Christ. So God kills every firstborn child and animal in Egypt, not the guy who enslaved them, not the guards, but babies. We are not talking about a surgical strike against Pharaoh. We are talking about a scorched earth divine fucking massacre.
Yeah.
Infants, children, livestock, everyone, whether or not they had anything to do with enslaving the Hebrews. Just dead.
Yeah, it's just on down the line. The only people that got spared were the people who were Hebrews.
Yeah.
Or, that was it.
They got passed over.
Yeah.
And that is the Passover celebration.
Right. And I can't get down with celebrating the death of so many people.
Right.
Like you're literally celebrating God killing children.
Right.
That's what you're celebrating.
There are some modern day takes that do actually acknowledge this. Okay. And so I don't want to just out of pocket be like, fuck the Jews. Like that is totally not what I am saying at all.
Right.
Okay. I don't want to come across anti-Semitic here. Okay.
Yeah.
Like that. There are people today who do acknowledge that this is not cool. And let's do it different.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
But let's get back into the story though. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is injustice by design. This is collective punishment in its purest and most horrifying form. Modern ethics and international law, like, the Geneva Conventions.
Yeah.
Yeah. They outright ban this kind of action, although we're going to talk about that in a minute too.
Sure.
You don't punish people for crimes they didn't commit. Period. The end.
Right.
Especially not innocent children and animals.
I mean,
like, get the fuck out of here.
That seems very obvious to me.
Yeah.
Like,
even the Titanic, right? It goes down, and who gets in the lifeboats? Women and children first.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's just a thing,
Right.
Like, we acknowledge that first the children and babies, animals, women, and, then, like, the strongest of us remain behind to fight.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
And that makes it sound like I am for, like, man doesn't get to be saved, and yay, women get to go, in the lifeboats. But
sure,
very stereotypically and generally speaking, it's because women are expected to be the caretakers of the children.
Sure.
Like, duh.
Yeah.
You can't force them to have the kids and then be like, but you don't get to take care of the kids, right?
Right.
Somebody got to have the babies. Somebody got to take care of the babies.
Sure.
So punishing the powerless, right? Pharaoh was the one making the decisions, but the people who paid the price were often those with the least agency in the entire situation. Kids, slaves, prisoners, and even livestock. It paints a very disturbing image of divine justice that is indiscriminate and cruel.
Which is often the case, as we've learned in the Old Testament.
And that's why we're doing this top 10 kill shot.
Right, yeah, because there's so much indiscriminate death in the Bible that you can't overlook it, right? Like there's oftentimes no rhyme or reason to who and why he's killing certain people,
exactly,
other than a generalized sense of he thinks they did something wrong.
Yeah.
Right, and it has nothing to do with this person or that person. He's just taking a large swath and saying, "Yep, y'all are dead."
It's so lazy, honestly. It's like the teacher who comes into the classroom and, doesn't feel like dealing with the 3 loud kids.
Yeah.
And punishes the whole class.
But then he also wants us to believe that he deals with people like Onan,
on an individual basis
or whatever, on an individual basis, right?
Yeah.
And Uzzah when he
dropped when
he touched the fucking ark, right?
Yeah.
Or even Pharaoh, he changed Pharaoh's heart, right?
Yeah.
He reached out and changed Pharaoh's heart, but not enough to where he didn't have to kill all the firstborns.
Right.
Like, I mean, what the fuck is this shit?
He's both like capable of reaching us on an individual level and also uncaring and lazy and just like, whatever, I'm just going to kill all of you. I'm bored of this.
Right. No, I could change Pharaoh's heart enough to where he'd just let you all go and I wouldn't have to kill all of Egypt's firstborns.
Right.
But no, instead, I'm going to let him not care enough to where I still have to kill millions of kids.
Yeah.
In order to get my way because I'm proving a fucking point through mass murder. I don't quite understand that mentality.
No.
And I can't wrap my head around anybody who would think in those terms.
Right. Yeah.
That's fucking terrible.
I'm not going to praise that guy.
No.
Just not.
Yeah.
So when you're like, are you saved? Like, no, your God is a dick.
He absolutely is.
He's not saved. He doesn't save anybody.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Another thing about this is using fear as theology. This is a God who doesn't allow collateral damage. He initiates it. He doesn't just allow collateral damage.
Right. Yeah.
That raises questions about whether worship is freely given or coerced by fear, which is what we've been saying this whole fucking time. Never not be afraid.
Well, yeah. I mean, he invokes fear more often than he invokes love, right? Like these...
Fear the Lord, he says.
The only way it seems like they think you can get to love is through fear. And that makes no like I can't bring myself to love somebody that I fear. Like not in the way that it should be, right? Like I know that there are fear aspects with regard to how children view their parents oftentimes, right?
Well, they don't want to disappoint them and they're scared of their parent being disappointed in them or looking down on them. They're scared of the feelings.
Right, but it's more like a Stockholm syndrome situation than it is love. It's just you have to or you fucking die.
Right. That's not love.
No.
I love you. Please don't kill me. That is not healthy, guys.
And then on top of that, he gets onto them, at other points in the Bible for not loving him correctly. And it's like, well, dude, if you didn't kill millions of people to get us to fear you, to love you, then maybe we would love you correctly if you were actually a giving and caring God that doesn't mass murder people to get them to fear love you.
Right.
Like, what is this shit, man?
Yeah.
Get your shit straight and come to us correctly, and then maybe you'll be a God worthy of our love.
Right. That is true. So true. So let's talk about Passover now.
Okay.
Celebration of slaughter, ?
I mean, yeah.
So Passover celebrates, as we said, the passing over of the houses with lamb's blood on the doorframe so that their children don't die. But baked into that celebration is the fact that all the other children did, in fact, die.
I just want to point out that the people, the Israelites, the Hebrews that were in Egypt didn't spread the message to other people. They just let those children die.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Like this was God enacting it, but it was also other people letting it happen too.
Right.
So there was a whole nationalistic side of this too. They didn't like the Egyptians.
Right.
They were okay with them dying.
Yeah. With their children.
With their children dying. Yeah. So I mean, yes, it was God, but it was also
the community.
letting this happen according to the story. Right.
That is tantamount to throwing a victory parade for surviving a school shooting while stepping over the bodies of the dead, saying, "Praise be to my bulletproof vest."
Right.
Like you're celebrating that you survived this as you're walking over the dead bodies. Yay, me.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that, we should not celebrate survivors. Obviously we should, but not at the cost of the dead and of those who perpetuated the crime.
Right.
Or perpetrated, not perpetuated. Perpetrated the crime.
Right, yeah. And this is baked into religious celebration.
Yeah.
Christian celebration, Jewish celebration.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Christians celebrate Passover.
They
maybe
do. I know Catholics do for sure.
Okay.
I don't know.
Wrong.
I don't know if it's every. I don't know enough about every group to speak exactly about that, but I'm quite certain that it is definitely part of some Christian celebrations.
Okay. Yeah, I probably am wrong on that. I don't recall because I did not grow up in a Christian home. So
it's not one of the, like, I don't think that there's a lot of Christians on the general sense that understand exactly everything about that holiday.
Right.
Or because it's just like a stepping stone to Easter, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how I grew up understanding it.
It's part of the season of Lent, Mardi Gras, Passover, Good Friday, Easter, like that whole spring procession.
I like how you threw Mardi Gras in there.
Well, that is part of it. Mardi Gras is one of those, like Fat Tuesday and all of that.
I don't think that's a Christian celebration.
I'm pretty sure, though, that it covers that whole week of... I'd have to look into it more.
Yeah.
But I think it's related. It is during that time period.
I mean, it is in the same time frame, but I've never heard that be a Christian celebration of any type.
I don't know if it's... I don't know what it is.
Sure.
I know that if you throw beads, you flash your boobies. And
right, which doesn't sound very, Christian-y to me.
Yeah, but I think that Mardi Gras celebration in New Orleans is not the same as, like... I think that they are celebrating a religious thing in a lewd way. That's my understanding. But I could definitely be wrong, and, like, I need to look more into it.
Got it. It looks like, just from our Discord, Brady says it's Catholic, actually. So you were somewhat correct. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because they do the whole palm thing, the palm leaves, and the Ash Friday or some shit. Like, there's this whole lead up, and Mardi Gras is part of that.
Interesting.
I just don't understand how it's tied in, and the way it's celebrated does not like when you think of Mardi Gras, you think of the beads and the boobies in New Orleans.
Well, yeah,
but that is how it's celebrated. And that's how we know it is celebrated. That is not actually what it is.
It's kind of, it's a lot more, I like the celebration in New Orleans a lot more now than I did. I'm like, wow, you guys took something Catholic or Christian-ish and turned it into boobs and beer.
You
like,
turned it into Girls Gone Wild, like those Florida fucking, spring breakers.
Right.
Right?
You guys, you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Let's see. So, it is one of the most joyful, widely celebrated Jewish holidays, as we know. Not Mardi Gras, Passover. And it's worth asking, is it a celebration of survival in spite of the horror? Or is it glorifying divine vengeance? And maybe a bit of both, right? A bit of both?
I think that could be dependent on how you interpret God.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think it also depends on each individual person and each individual group.
Like, and I think that's problematic.
Yeah.
Because it is left up to an individual interpretation.
Yeah.
And part of that individual interpretation is that, God's simply a fucking mass murderer who murders people who aren't of your nationality or ilk, that, he doesn't like them, so they're fucking dead.
Right.
And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that in the Bible.
There is. Jewish tradition, though, does wrestle with this. The death of the firstborn is still seen by many as justified divine retribution for Egyptian oppression and for Pharaoh's stubbornness. And the Egyptians are, as a whole, as a group, are seen as complicit in slavery. So their punishment, while tragic, is seen by many as a form of collective accountability. But, and Passover for some is reframed as a remembrance of liberation, not a celebration of violence. And so now we're kind of headed towards the, but it's not good though.
Yeah,
right?
No,
it's not good. No. And so there are some more progressive branches of Judaism, like Reform, Reconstructionist, and even some conservative, that tend to take a very different tone on Passover.
Well, good.
Some modern Jewish texts include commentary readings or prayers of sorrow for the Egyptians who died.
And that would be the appropriate.
It's very solemn instead of, celebratory.
But let's not forget that the person that killed them is God.
Is God, yeah. Others mention dipping the finger in wine to reduce joy, acknowledging that others suffered. So they do some kind of like symbolic thing.
Sure.
Just as a active way of remembering what actually happened.
Appreciate that to an extent. Mm-hmm. You're still celebrating. Yeah,
I'm gonna get there. Yeah, okay. There's an intentional pause to acknowledge suffering on both sides, which let's both sides it, huh? But that's like you were about to say. That's a contemporary attempt to temper an ancient and brutal narrative.
Well, and you mentioned slavery as a justification, right? Like that the Egyptians were enslaving people, mm-hmm. right? But the Israelites also enslaved people. Mm-hmm. Like, let's not forget that when the tribe of Benjamin became low on people, they took people that they conquered and took their women and
raped them in the cornfields.
Yeah. This is slavery. There are other instances. That's the one that popped in my head right off the top. That's
the one I always think of.
But they are not innocent.
No.
In the idea of enslaving people.
Right. And the whole both sidesism of it and the yeah but you of it, I hate.
And even God's not innocent in the idea of slavery. He allowed these things to happen, and there's many points in the Bible where we can point to where he was just okay with slavery. As long as it was his people and not somebody else enslaving his people. And,
of course.
And even at that, he was okay with that if it was at his direction.
Yes.
He was okay with other people enslaving his people when he wanted it to happen.
Right. When he wanted to use other people as tools to beat his people over the head.
Until he wasn't. And then he killed him again.
Right.
And it's just...
The story plays over
God
and over.
is so fucking wishy-washy and just childish. He's
capricious, petulant.
Yeah.
Mercurial.
Right. All of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A sentiment found in many liberal cedar supplements is God doesn't need our praise when others suffer. God needs our compassion. And so there's a growing discomfort with the idea that freedom came at the expense of their children, the Egyptians' children.
Yeah.
Some cedars include counter narratives like remembering the humanity of the Egyptians.
You're saying cedars?
Mm-hmm.
What is cedars?
The cedar dinner for Easter.
Oh, I don't know what that is. I'm sorry.
Oh, the Passover dinner.
I was not aware of that. I'm sorry. I'm an atheist who never attended any Passover events ever.
I mean, I
have no idea what that fucking is.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. It's the ultimate, all the days lead up to the cedar dinner.
Ah, okay. Is it Passover. Cedar as in like cedar wood or?
SEDER.
SEDER. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not with a C, not wood.
Okay, I'm getting information that it might be Seder is how it's pronounced.
Oh, probably. It's probably Seder.
Yeah. Thanks, Fern.
Yeah, I mispronounce shit all the time, so that's me. It's a word that I know and that I've read many times, but as we always point out, I can't pronounce shit because I never, talk to people.
Yeah.
I don't say things.
No, I mean I've never heard of the Seder dinner. I don't know what that is. So that's why I'm like, are you saying a word that I don't understand, or are you saying trees?
I'm saying a word. I'm saying a word you don't understand. Okay. So let me start over, okay? Yeah. And this time I'll pronounce it correctly, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a sentiment found in many liberal Seder, the dinner, supplements.
I know now.
The reading is, God doesn't need our praise when others suffer. God needs our compassion. There's growing discomfort with the idea that freedom came at the expense of the Egyptians' children, which there should be.
Right.
Some Seder dinners include counter narratives like remembering the humanity of the Egyptians, or including modern examples of innocent suffering, which I appreciate.
Yeah,
I appreciate, because then that gets into my next question, which was, would any leader survive this today? And the answer is mixed. No, unless he calls it war.
Right. Yeah.
If a modern leader deliberately killed 1 million babies, they'd be labeled a genocidal monster unless they wrapped it in national security, retaliation, or collateral damage.
If you mix it in with, if you take what's going on in Gaza, Like that.
Yeah, and my next sentence that I wrote here is consider the current day plight of the Palestinians.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but it's not just the firstborns. Like
no, it's all of them.
If we specifically take somebody goes out and kills the firstborns of another nation, that's a little weirder than, I mean, it's not better. It's not good. It's just different, and it's very specific.
It would be too pointed to be able to carry out.
Right.
But it's no less gross.
Right.
It's all gross.
Yeah.
The justification for what's happening in the Gaza Strip echo the same logic of punishing entire populations for the actions of a few. They harbored terrorists. They didn't leave when we warned them. It's their leadership's fault. Or, Hamas.
Right.
We want to blow up the entire population because Hamas.
Yeah.
Like, we just love blowing people up. So maybe the lesson isn't that the Bible was extra barbaric. Maybe it's that our systems still actually do work this way. They just use better PR today.
Yeah.
And that is where we end our lesson.
Sure. I like to call it propaganda, though.
PR, propaganda.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Fox News lies.
Yeah, definitely. So do you have anything else to cover? Or was that the first 3 terrible God murder stories that we were going to cover?
That was the first 3 of God's top 10 kill streaks, Old Testament edition.
Got it.
So I will be back with the next 3 when we do this Sunday get together again. And when was that?
It's the fourth Sunday of every month.
The 4th Sunday, not the last Sunday.
If you hop onto Discord and you go to the events at the top of the left, bar, whatever area on Discord, there's a place you can actually kind of RSVP. It'll give you notifications when it's going to go live and all that kind of stuff. We usually send a thing as we're starting, which we usually spend about a half hour before we actually get into the episode.
Just hanging out.
So yeah, once we send the notification that we're starting, you've got about a half hour to get in there for the actual episode. But there's always chatting going on, and it's fun no matter when you pop in.
Right. And sometimes we just have people pop in that are like, hey, I just wanted to say hi because I haven't chatted in a while. And then they don't even stick around. They just literally wanted to say hi to us because they're our friends and we like them.
Yeah.
And that's fun. And I love that when they do that, because I'm like, oh my gosh, they just wanted to say hi to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're my friends. You guys are my friends. I love you all.
So yeah, we hope to see you here. And I think that's all we got for today. So we'll see you next time.
All righty then. Bye.
Hey, wife, I guess that's the end?
But husband, that's just sad.
It doesn't have to be. We are on lots of social media platforms like Twitter. Our handle there is sacrilegious_D.
For D's nuts.
Oh my God. Stop doing that. Anyway, we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. There's a link to all of our social media sites at our website.
Ooh, we have a website?
Yeah, it's sacrilegiousdiscourse.com, where you can also find a link to our merch shop.
We have a merch shop?
Yep, we have podcast-themed clothing, mugs, notebooks, and more, as well as an atheist and science-themed products.
Wow, our fans should really go check that out right now.
Definitely. They can get in touch with us by sending an email to sacrilegiousdiscourse@gmail.com. But before they do that, we could really use some help.
Oh yeah? With what?
Well, it's not free running the podcast, and we need some financial support in order to get better equipment, which will free up time so we can concentrate on our podcast and our fans.
Okay, so what should they do?
Head over to patreon.com/sacrilegious discourse and sign up as a contributor on our podcast. Supporters there receive additional bi-weekly episodes that we record just for our Patreon members for as little as $2 a month.
Also, we'd really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe on whatever platform you're using.
And Apple Podcast reviews help us out tremendously.
Like and subscribe. Leave an Apple review. Join us on Twitter. Support us on Patreon. That's a lot of instructions. Don't forget to say thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.